Good evening. The continuance of special meeting of the Windward Planning Commission, which originally convened on November 4th, 2024, will now come to order. It is Thursday, December 5th, 2024. The time is 5:01. This meeting is being streamed live on YouTube. I'll introduce the commissioners. Commissioner Lauren Baylog.
Good evening.
Commissioner Wayne DeLutz.
Good evening.
Commissioner Chantel, or I should say Vice Chair Chantel Perrin.
Good evening.
I am Chairperson Dennis Lynn has resigned from the commission to serve the new Hawaii County Mayor Administration. The commission welcomes a new member today, Commissioner Gordon Takaki. He is representing South Hilo in the at-large seat that was recently vacant when Commissioner Matthias Cush resigned. I am Chairman Louis Daniele III. We have quorum to hold this meeting. From the Office of Corporation Counsel, Deputy Corporation Counsel Suzanne Tabulia, attorney for the commission, who is present to advise the commission, Deputy Corporation Counsel Gene Campbell, attorney for the Planning Department. Representing the Planning Department, Planning Director Jeffrey Darrow is present to advise the commission. Commissioners, please confirm that you have had the opportunity to review the materials related to the agenda item being reviewed today. Okay, simple aye, yes?
Aye.
Okay, very good. I note that each commissioner has verbally confirmed having had the opportunity to review the materials related to the agenda item and all submitted testimony. A little housekeeping, please turn off and silence your cell phones. Public restrooms are located outside in the middle of the building on the Mackay side. If there is anyone here in person who would like to testify, please fill out the yellow sign-up form from the staff table. Also, if you have written testimony that has not been sent in earlier, you may submit it to staff now. Introduction and overview. The purpose of this public meeting is to afford all interested persons a reasonable opportunity to comment on the County of Hawaii General Plan 2045. Final recommended draft dated July 2024, and for the commission to review the draft plan and provide its recommendations to the County Council. The commission will be holding meetings from now until March 2025 to review the draft general plan. The format of these meetings will include a staff presentation followed by public testimony and then commission questions of staff, discussion and action on the draft plan. The Planning Department staff will provide a presentation of each section of the draft plan. For example, today they will present the Sustainable Development and Resilient Communities in the Land Use section. The public may testify on any section of the draft plan at each meeting until the public testimony is closed. After hearing public testimony, the commission may ask questions of staff. As it is November 4th, 2024 meeting, the commission made a motion to provide a favorable recommendation to the County Council on the draft plan. This motion will remain open for several months until the last meeting of the draft plan, allowing commissioners to make subsidiary motions if they want to change the draft plan by adding, deleting, or replacing language. At the last meeting for review of the draft plan, the commission will vote on the main motion to forward its recommendation to County Council. The draft general plan and today's agenda can be found on the Planning Commission website by searching online for Hawaii County Planning Commission or going to the website address posted on the agenda. We will start staff presentation. We will start with a presentation by the planning staff. Commissioners, please take note of questions you want to ask staff, since we'll reserve our questions until after hearing all public testimony. Staff, please introduce yourself before beginning your presentation. Thank you for your presentations. Thank you for your presentations. We will start public testimony and we'll hear in. Oh, okay. Okay. So now it's staff presentation. Thank you.
Aloha, Commissioners. Thank you for being here tonight. So give me just a moment. My name is April Serpernot. I'm a planner with the Planning Department, and I have with me Janice Hata, who is here as a resource and taking notes and other things like that. So thank you. I hope this works. Stream. But now I don't know. Oh. I think I'm not gonna be able to have that. Yeah. I don't have to speak from it, but if I want to do references, the references are there. Okay, we will make this work. Not a problem. Yeah. Okay, apologies for that. So tonight we are going to start talking about land use from our Sustainable Development and Resilient Communities section of the general plan. One of the things that we've been hearing at a number of the meetings is a better explanation of the authority of the general plan and really where that comes from. So it does come from the US Constitution ultimately, and filters down into two planning acts. One is called the Federal State Zoning Enabling Act. The other is the Standard City Planning Enabling Act. In the 1920s, these were developed mostly in 1921 and then were revised and adopted in 26 and 28 respectively. The Zoning Act, as you might imagine, allows for local jurisdictions, particularly states, and states pass that authority on to local jurisdictions to develop land use regulations such as the zoning code. The Standard City Planning Act is a federal act that authorizes jurisdictions to create planning commissions, and comprehensive plans is the way the act is stated. For the state of Hawaii, our comprehensive plans are called general plans. So I just wanted to show how that connection from federal to state constitution and the State Planning Act, and then filters into the county's charter and the general plan itself. So just a few slides that are a little bit repetitive, but always a good intro into each of the sections. So bear with me for a moment for those of you who have attended all of these meetings. The general plan really sets forth that long-range comprehensive view of the physical, economic, environmental, and sociocultural well-being. So it's looking out ahead. It's a long-range policies for looking at the county comprehensively. In practical terms, it provides the long-range vision of creating healthy, livable, and sustainable communities, while also serving as a planning tool used to guide decisions to help achieve this vision. Where we've been, just a recap, we started this process in 2015 with the comprehensive review. We did a lot of public outreach and workshops. We did a lot of research and have a number of reports and things of that nature, socioeconomic reports, housing reports, all of that. Many of those have been updated because this process has taken quite a while. And then we had in 2019, the initial draft, which really was primarily draft policies. It was not intended as a complete document. But because we were shifting there were so many things to add to the general plan, such as reference to sustainability and resilience. We felt we needed to go out to the public to really get some feedback on the policies themselves. So that happened in 2019. And then that shifted to our draft, which was last year, which came out. Again, we had a lot of public meetings and public workshops, and then our 2024 draft, which is the final recommended draft that you all are reviewing. What that looks like in terms of the timeline, just sort of shifting that timeline from horizontal to vertical, is in 2015, we did all of this outreach. We had the Kim administration coming in. We also had some hiccups with the Kilauea eruption. A majority of the long-range staff at that time were a major part of the recovery effort and the recovery planning before the recovery division was created. So that took a few years. We also had COVID, other administrations, but here we are. And then this is just a very brief snapshot of all of the different types of meetings that we've had throughout the entire process, including community groups, the mayor's cabinet, public forums, public agencies, both state and county, and the like. So to start into so we have already had sessions on the introduction and biocultural and climate change. So tonight we're going to start the sustainable development section, but we're only going to talk about land use tonight. There's enough to talk about with land use that we figured we're going to keep that one separate, and we can talk about these other ones at a subsequent meeting. We'll go over the land use designations. We'll talk about urban areas, rural areas, agriculture, and then we should have a bullet here actually for conservation and recreation. So the future land use, the land use section really represents the broader policy direction and look to the CDPs in large part and a lot of other master plans and agency plans for guidance in doing so. They also used to guide, they're used to guide the land use designations, which we'll talk about tonight. And then the general plan and the land use maps, just to be clear, do not change zoning. Zoning is very different and is an immediate entitlement for landowners, whereas the general plan is a higher level, broad, future potential land use going forward. So the primary land use goal is to strategically apply progressive land use strategies, incorporating indigenous and contemporary knowledge and place-based practices to direct and manage growth for the health and safety of our communities. We'll go through a number of these objectives tonight with some policy and action examples. But this is just a quick summary of the various objectives that are in the document. So our first example is generally about land use with the objective to reduce the threat of life and property from natural hazards and disasters. And so one example, we're outlining a few examples for you guys. Hopefully you've had a chance to read this section before now, and we can talk about more questions and get in more detail later after public testimony. But one policy example is to incorporate hazard mitigation strategies into policies and planning decisions using conservative models in delineating hazard areas. So this is really intended to be an overarching goal to look at where our primary hazards are to help facilitate planning around those and to assist landowners even around those particular hazards. So one of the actions related to this is to review and amend the land use policies to reduce risk from hazards, including but not limited to floodplains, high surf, tsunami, landslides, erosions, wildfires, and high-risk volcanic hazard areas. So again, this is intended to minimize threats to life and property as it relates to these types of hazards. I would also say that this is consistent with our multi-hazard mitigation plan. It's one of the agency plans that the county keeps or produces and updates every 5 years. And so this is a policy that's also consistent with that plan. A few other examples, just looking at a few other urban area type uses, is to discourage strip or spot commercial development on the highways outside of urban growth areas. This is a policy that comes in large part from the 2005 general plan as well as the KAU CDP. And it's noted in several areas in the 2005 general plan. Under industrial, mitigate impacts of industrial development on surrounding uses by requiring landscaping, trees, open space, buffer zones, and other appropriate conditions. Again, this also comes from the 2005 general plan that's noted in our rationale policy document. That's something that's online. I can also pull that up tonight if that's something that we want to look at together. More than happy to do that. And then under resort, to promote and prioritize rehabilitation and the optimum utilization of resort areas that are presently serviced by basic facilities and utilities before allowing new resorts. So this is looking at maximizing the development that's already been entitled to hopefully build out the existing resort entitlements before creating new large resort areas. Again, this also came from the 2005 general plan. So a couple of actions, or there's a number of actions listed here, and I don't need to read through each one of these actions. It's really intended as an example, but the idea and the intent behind them is really to try to modernize our land use regulations to encourage a variety of development and mixed use type developments, to prioritize community focused design to really create vibrant public spaces for all of our people who live here and work here and use our towns and villages, to enable diverse housing options that can meet the needs of all of our residents on island, including a variety of different income levels and lifestyles. To align block sizes is another example, with the intended use and identify or identity of the neighborhood. So making sure basically that block sizes and subdivisions match the surrounding neighborhood and are usable and friendly for the neighborhood. And then to foster sustainability and economic diversity. Under the general plan rural designation, which we'll look at maps in a few minutes, this objective is to maximize the use of rural designated lands to preserve rural character and lifestyle. Part of the intent, which you'll also see in a few minutes, is to better utilize the rural designation as a transition between urban uses and agricultural uses, which is really what was created for to begin with. One such policy is to support the development of small-scale visitor accommodations with heritage, agriculture, wellness, and similar themes in rural areas and near points of interest. This is another example that came from 2005 general plan in a couple of different places, as well as the Hamakua CDP. A related action is to amend the zoning code definition and requirements for lodges and reconcile similarities and inconsistencies with the special permit provisions for retreats. So clearly articulating in the code the zoning districts appropriate for lodges. Again, there's a little confusion and lack of clarity in some areas of the code that could be better defined and clarified under this type of policy. We'll look at a few under agriculture. So this is to support the active use of productive agricultural lands. One policy example is to develop in these productive agricultural lands should include ag uses related to economic infrastructure, cottage industries, compatible renewable energy, open area recreational uses, community facilities, and compatible agricultural working housing. Again, this is looking at all of the different types of uses that really support agricultural production and allowing those types of uses on the agricultural lands for that agricultural purpose. And then an action could be to amend the zoning code to develop standards for permitting certified incubators or commercial kitchens in rural and agricultural districts. Again, that's one example of trying to better support agricultural production, and something that we hear from farmers and agricultural landowners quite a bit. Another example is to encourage and aid the agricultural industry in continuing to provide agriculture worker housing. That's something we hear a lot about, and it's not an easy thing to do when you want more than one. When you do have a lot of farm workers, when a farming landowner has a lot of farm workers and need to provide that type of housing, it's very difficult to have multiple units that can really support a agricultural workforce. And so this is intended to help support that. An action would be to amend the code to basically better allow and permit this type of use. And sometimes we find that the parcel itself does not allow, they're doing so much agriculture on the parcel that they can't really put the farm worker housing on that parcel. So to be able to have it on a nearby parcel, the agricultural working on a nearby parcel, for the best utilization of the land that's available. In looking at open space policies, this is particular to recreation and conservation, zoning, subdivision, and other applicable ordinances shall provide for and protect open space areas. So this is intended to help safeguard some open space areas and provide those open space areas for our community and our residents. The objective being to maintain community character and land use compatibility. Again, this comes from a number of the CDPs and also from the 2005 general plan. An example of that is to create village plans for unique urban areas that include considerations for urban design, aesthetic quality, and protection of amenities in adjacent areas through landscaping, open space, and buffered areas. Two great examples of this that are already done and underway. One is Hilo, the Envision Hilo plan and the Hilo multimodal plan both talk a lot about urban design options for the village and urban area of Hilo. It also talks about open space and street trees and things like that, which street trees provide a lot of shade and make it much easier and more comfortable for our residents and visitors to walk on the sidewalks and have some shade, for example. Or the awnings in downtown Hilo is another good example. They provide both shade, but also protection from rain on our very rainy days that we have. Another example, which is currently underway, the two Hilo plans are complete, but another one that is currently underway is the Kona Open Space Plan. And so that is a master plan looking at various open spaces in the Kona area, sites and areas that are already open, but making an intentional connection between those types of open spaces. And looking for linear connections, be it trails in the future or linear parks or things like that, that could provide more of that outdoor and open space for the Kona urban area. So we'll shift over to the maps and the land use designations themselves. This is an example of the changes that we're proposing to the land use designations with 2005 on the left. If it's in gray, it didn't change at all. If it's in black or blue, then that is a change. And then our draft that we are proposing have these changes. One of the things we heard a lot about with industrial uses and something that we've experienced through the planning department and a lot of applications and things like that we receive is there really needs to be a distinction between heavy industrial uses and more light or service oriented industrial uses. And so we've made that distinction now in this proposed draft. Important ag lands, one of the big confusions ever since that term has been used is that many people, including professional planners, get it confused with state land use important agricultural lands. It's exactly the same title. And so it's very difficult to help people understand that this important ag land means something different from this important ag land. And so the intended purpose of general plan important ag land was to be productive. And so we changed the term to productive agriculture. Extensive remained the same. And then natural was added. Natural is intended to be, it does allow for, we'll talk about it in a few minutes more specifically, but it allows for ag uses, but sometimes more in a natural state. It may be pasture land, it may be highland forested areas, things like that. The other change was from open to recreation. Open was always intended in the current general plan and the way it's described as more active recreation type use, but just being open didn't quite say that. And so we changed the name to recreation. That's things like county and state parks, active spaces, but it also includes shoreline setback areas or shoreline areas in state land use urban areas. Again, we'll cover that in a few minutes and we can show you some examples. So in looking at urban, this is simply a snapshot of what's in the plan, just so you can recognize it. Some of the things that were considered in making decisions about land use in the urban and rural areas was very important to look at the community development plans and various master plans, the DHHL plans. A lot of area plans were looked at in terms of making some of these decisions. So much work had gone into the community development plans. It was really important that we honored those, all of that good work that had gone into those, most of which were done after the 2005 general plan was adopted. We looked at creating more transitions between different levels of density. So for example, you'll see a decrease in the use of urban expansion, which sort of allows any kind of urban to happen within urban expansion. And you see more distinctions between high, medium, and low. We'll show you examples in just a moment. We also looked to state land use, the 2005 general plan, of course, and zoning to help make these decisions. Also access to infrastructure, and then again, noting a more intentional use of rural as that transition between urban uses and agricultural uses. So this is an example, and this chart comes from the land use reports. So the link that you have that takes you to all of the reports that were done that that justify the plan that we are proposing. The last report, which is dated 2024, has all of these charts in it. And basically this shows how in the 2005 on the left, in rural shows rural as 47,000 acres and an increase in the use of rural to 73,000 acres. Again, that's intended to make more of a transition between high, medium, low, urban to rural, and then to agriculture. You see a distinction in industrial where it was just all one thing, but now is divided into a heavy and a light industrial. And then you see a decrease in overall urban expansion from 30,000 acres to 10,000 acres, and more distinction between the high, medium, and low density urban type uses. Now, what that looks like in Kona, for example, 2005, most of the Kona urban area was just urban expansion. It could be anything between low and high density urban. And in what is being proposed, you can see now, first of all, the conservation lands match the state land use conservation. If it's state land use conservation today, then it's already conservation, and you have to follow all of the state laws related to conservation. And so that was one of the intentions related to conservation, is to match the state land use conservation. And then you can see more distinctions between high, medium, low, rural, and then agriculture, making those kind of distinctions. This, for example, is a TOD that's noted in the Kona Community Development Plan. This just zooms in a little more to that area that I was just pointing to of high density, medium density, low, rural, and then agriculture on the fringe. This is recreation, noting the regional park, the Kealakahe Regional Park. In Hilo, there are a little bit fewer changes in Hilo. Most of the changes here are related to urban, low density urban and rural. So you can see how it's changed in this area, for example, with rural, this was already developed, which is much more closely to low density urban. And then on the outer fringe of the urban growth area was changed to rural to better suit that transition in uses between low density urban again and agriculture. You can also see a change in some of the industrial uses from just industrial to light industrial in some cases and heavy industrial in others. Again, zooming in a little bit more, high density, I think, was also increased a little bit in the downtown core area of Hilo to precipitate development more Malca away from some of the shoreline activities and flooding that happens in the coastal areas of downtown Hilo. In agriculture, again, the name changed to productive ag. Orchard was eliminated because it is productive ag. It's producing, it's producing agriculture from trees. So it seemed redundant. So we just added orchard, for example, into productive. And then we added a natural designation, which is more passive uses. I'll show you on the map, but in large part, these uses are lava flows or high elevation, thank you, high elevation areas that are largely forested. Some are in pasture lands. So ag uses are allowed in those areas, of course, and they're zoned ag, so that is also allowed. But the intent was to keep them a little bit more natural in the way that they exist today. One of the main things that we utilized, which is a really great baseline study that has been done and maintained by the University of Hawaii Hilo, is the agriculture land use baseline, which documents all of our active current productive ag. And so we used originally the 2015, it was updated in 2020, and they're currently underway with another update that will come out sometime next year. For recreation and conservation, again, recreation is really intended for more active type recreational uses in urban state land use. It's also along the shoreline. Other shoreline areas around the island, if it is noted as state land use conservation, then we noted it as general plan conservation to be consistent with that. Other conservation includes forest and water reserves, land that are in active conservation, as well as state land use conservation, as I said, and PONC lands. So most of the lands that were purchased by our Public Open Space Commission have been, we've met with them, we've gotten a list of all of their properties, and we've noted those as conservation as well. So what ag and open space look like in terms of our chart is conservation did change a little bit, but really mostly going from open along the coastline to conservation where there's already state land use conservation. And then just a little bit distribution of the ag lands between natural, extensive ag and productive ag. So this is just a brief summary, sort of copying and repeating some of the bullet points that are on all of those other slides, really just trying to pull it together and really hoping to express that looking at land use is really a comprehensive process, and it's looking at guiding the collective land use and development in making those types of decisions rather than just individual uses or trying to impose some kind of restriction or something like that. It's really looking at the big picture in terms of where the county, and particularly looking at all of the various master plans, agency, functional plans, and community development plans of where the community has been expressing where they want the island to go. Again, for more information, I know you've seen this before, but we're just going to put it in every slideshow of where you can get more. So looking at our website, this is a timeline that goes all the way up to 2015. This is on the planning department website under the general plan comprehensive section. I can show that to people as well online, but it shows everything that's been done to date. It has all of the public comments. It has all of the responses. It has all of the reports and resources that have been used that have gone into this project over the last 9 years. And then there's also the interactive map and draft that we have. This was an opportunity for people to provide comment directly into the system. A lot of people did that. We know that doesn't work for everyone. We've also provided hard copies for anyone who have requested it. We've accepted all letters, emails, written and verbal comments, and we've included all of that in the comments that you all have available to you. And then lastly, next steps. We're sort of assuming we're not going to cover everything in land use tonight. So our next meeting on February 6th, we will probably look to continue this conversation wherever we leave off tonight or wherever you all direct us otherwise. And that's it for our presentation. Thank you.
April, can you do us a favor? Oh, can you bring it up real quick again? I just want to, if you could just show the comparison of the conservation ag related to the urban again. I think that's the slide that shows the amount of conservation and ag changes. But in relation to the urban, that was pretty, you had mentioned it in the session, yeah, but I think it would help people to understand how much urban in comparison. Yeah, right there. Thank you. Mike, thanks.
Thank you. Sorry. Absolutely. So this is a little difficult to explain because the scales of these two different charts are very different. So to give you an example of how much urban, which generally speaking on our island, we're only about 1%, 1, maybe 2 or 3% urban. And so this chart, all of this area that includes rural and up to high density urban, all of this, if you were squish that down in comparison with agriculture and conservation, all of that urban and rural would squish down into this little beige square down at the bottom. So this equals, again, I need to look up the exact numbers, but I'll say 2% of the overall island. And then the remainder is in ag and conservation. Is that what you were asking for, Jeff? Okay, very good.
Great, thank you for that presentation. Now we will go on to testimony. We'll hear in-person testimony first, then move to Zoom testimony. Commissioners, if you have any questions for a testifier, please turn on your mic light after the testifier is finished so I can acknowledge you. Staff, are there any in-person testifiers tonight?
Yes, Chair, we have 6 people signed up to testify in
Okay.
person.
Okay,
The first 2 testifiers will be David DeClean and Brian Ravel. If you could come to the table so that I could swear you in, please. Yes, please. And go ahead and turn on the microphone. It should be a green button. Great. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth now before the Windward Planning Commission?
I do.
Great. You'll have 3 minutes. I'll let you know when you have 30 seconds remaining. And when you start, state your name and the town you reside in. Okay?
David DeClean, Hilo. I have a question maybe at the end. On November 21st, 2024, at the Leeward Planning Commission, Zendo Kern, your predecessor, said it's okay to still speak. I assume there's some continuity. If we really want to go technical, there is a CDP for Hilo. It's just old. We're looking at the Hilo area the same way that we would look at any area that has a CDP. The same attention is given to Hilo, knowing that the CDP isn't as current. So that's 1975, of course, we all know that was the Hilo CDP. No person alive today on the Big Island, with the exception of my mother-in-law, who's 100, but I don't know if she inputted into that general CDP, contributed to that Hilo CDP. It's 60 years old. Yet Zendo Kern refers to this 178-page report as technically Hilo's CDP. The other 6 CDPs, they worked on their revisions, in some cases, 17 years and 7 years at the least. So there's 7 districts, and the 6 of them, little show and tell here, are these, with an average of, I think, 153 pages per CDP. So it's, I'm trying to illustrate that it's a major proposition. Even April, you know, in her presentation, mentioned the CDPs probably 5 or 6 times, right? So it's not nothing. Yeah, the average of 156 pages. Are we to assume that Hilo's 60-year-old CDP will be revised by the planning department? If not them, by whom? Does this question matter to the planning commission? What is preventing the residents of Hilo from revising their own CDP? Why cannot we put the general plan on hold while the residents of Hilo revise our 60-year-old CDP? At that same meeting, Zendo Kern said, by no means was the CDP forgotten. Like, Hilo doesn't have a current CDP. We don't need to address it. It's a little different framework, and we need to make sure that we are honoring that, close quotes. So we asked the planning department, how are you honoring Hilo's CDP, the voice of Hilo residents, if you are pushing through our 60-year-old report without giving us a chance to update it?
You have 30 seconds left.
I ask again, will the planning department update it rather than the people of Hilo? Or is the planning department assuming it will do the revision? Or is this really a democratic process? Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Commissioners, do we have any questions for the testifier? Okay, there's none. Next testifier, please.
Hi there. My name is Brian. I grew up here, like most of the residents here. I did go over it in depth on your guys' general plan, and at first glance, it looks good. But again, like he was saying, where does the people come in where we get to help plan this? Because we do see a lot of growth here. I'm in the construction industry. We've seen a 400% increase in new construction homes, as well as a 500% increase in our retail. And we're seeing it's coming from out of state, majority, including the rental situation. So we're wondering where the residents get to be a part of this, because it is our home. And for sustainable growth, I'd hope it include the residents here in this planning part, basically. And I don't have much more to add. It's just that we want to be included in this because it does seem that there is other interest outside of the Hilo residents, including the people who are buying the property up. And that's actually pretty much it, unless you have any questions.
Great, thank you for your testimony this evening. Commissioners, we have any questions? No, you can't.
Chair, your next two testifiers
Thank
are
you, sir. Thank you.
Michelle Melendez and Michael Johnson. If you could come to the table so that I could swear you in. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth now before the Windward Planning Commission?
Yes.
Great, thank you. You'll have 3 minutes. I'll let you know when you have 30 seconds remaining. Please state your name and the town you reside in before you begin.
Michelle Melendez, Hakalau. So the Leeward Planning Department wanted to change the name climate change to get more people on board with all the rules and regulations that are under that section. And in so doing that, it would change the exact reason for those regulations. They also wanted to say, they also wanted somebody from the Hawaii University to show how there is climate change. In that meeting, I showed them 1960 credentialed scientists from around the world that signed a declaration that there's no climate danger. Climate change happens every day. The founder of the Weather Channel, no climate danger. The 50-year meteorologist for the US Navy actually showed the Milankovitch cycle that showed the Earth was 800 years closer to the sun. 800 years ago is closer to the sun, and we're cooling. The National Medicine website, and I'll send you guys the link, also states the Earth is cooling. This whole idea that we have climate danger, that the sea levels are rising, Al Gore's his film about documenting the changes of the Earth actually was in the British judge actually found 9 errors in that movie, and one of them was the fact that Kilimanjaro is not melting the way that they say that they are. But you guys, there's so many things in this plan that are because of the word climate change. This conservation, what local would want to have their property value dropped? They already have sent locals letters saying they're going to change residential to recreation. That's going to drop their property value. She says they're not rezoning. They are setting it up for rezoning. I want to know what local would actually want that, to say, oh yeah. And then not only that, but they actually have in this plan where the planning department can actually make a list of people's property that they might want to acquire. Okay, I don't know what property owner or a local said, yeah, that's okay. Please put my property on a list where you guys can possibly acquire it later. And then the last person in the last meeting said, oh, this is a willing thing. They'll be willing to acquire the land. When does the government willingly acquire land? I mean, I could go into the Queen Liliuokalani and her abdication of the throne. I mean, there's so many things around this. The electric vehicles, please don't bring those to the Big Island. They are a fire hazard. This person in the mainland
have
had an
30
electric
seconds
vehicle
left.
in her car. It caught on fire. It takes 2 hours for that thing to go out. The home burned. Not only that, but these cars, you can't recycle these batteries. These batteries are toxic. If these batteries in the electric cars go into the landfill and they break, toxic fumes will be emitted. That is not a conspiracy theory. That is a fact. How in the world is our buses going to run on electricity? Our diesel is going to run on electricity. What about the grid? And how much power is it going to take to have everybody have an electric car? The electricity bill is going to
You
go
have
up.
3 minutes as I thank you for your testimony.
It's already too much. Please don't bring these cars in. It's dangerous for Big Island, big time.
Thank you for your testimony. Commissioners, do we have any questions for the testifier? Okay, I see none. We go on to the next testifier, please.
Good evening. My name is Michael Johnson. I'm from Hakalau. I represent the Hakalau Farmers Market. And I want to start by saying that Governor Green last year put out I don't know if a decree or what it was, but he told the tax departments on each island ways to come up with what he wants to see is half the food eaten in Hawaii by 2035 will be processed and produced in Hawaii. So the tax departments have gone out and they were left with their own schemes, and they've got the whole dedicated ag thing. They raised the prices on ag land this coming year. unless you go dedicated ag, which encourages people to grow more things. And that's great, but the bottleneck that we have in producing food is in processing the food. And for that, we need land that is, I don't want to say zoned because we're not using that word, but it's land used for industry to process food. And we don't always need it right here in Hilo. We need it out there where the farms are, in Hakalau, in Lapahoyoi, places like that. So I asked the commission to consider in their land use plans, industrial land where the farms are. Okay, another thing is the farmers need labor and they need finances. And when I surveyed the farmers in the Hakalau area several years ago, overwhelmingly what they like to see is ag tourism. Ag tourism brings people onto the farm. They can work there, they can enjoy themselves there, they can get away from the snow, whatever. And then that gives more revenue to the farm. And because it's hard to make a living just selling lemons and limes. So what we have is, in order to have a resilient community, which April was pointing out.
You have 30 seconds left.
Right. Well, yeah, it's agricultural villages would be resilient communities because what you have is two different monetary lifestyles, a city-based lifestyle versus a country rural lifestyle. And what the farmers can offer to offset some of the cost of labor is room and board. And so when you have somebody living on the land, working on the land, it's a totally different thing that someone has to own a car and drive out, and commute, and then go
Your
back
30
and
minutes are
pay,
finished. Thank you for your testimony.
rent in Hilo.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Commissioners, do we have any questions for the testifier? I have just one question. So you mentioned infrastructure for the farmers. I mean, could you give us an example? I mean, I know that, there's no more like slaughterhouses, or there's no more, egg farms, or there's no more, things like that that used to be here. I mean, is that kind of what you're talking about? Packing plants, radiation plants, things that the farmers are going to need to move this food throughout the community.
Yeah, yes. Where it starts is what the land use is for. And there's only two places on the Hamakua coast that are zoned industrial, where you can go set up some equipment. It'd be nice to have a lychee equipment here. I mean, they have it in China, they have it all over Asia, where we could process all that type of fruit, all the longans, everything gets processed very easily. We also have people in the area that give contracts to the farmers to grow fruit, but they don't have anywhere to process it. We just need that. I mean, the money is there waiting to build the factory, I guess you can say. And that's basically what I'm talking about.
Thank you.
So-
Thank you. Yes.
I could
Yeah.
respond.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson, I think you were here last time when we had our meeting.
Yes,
I had mentioned to you about the opportunities that are available to
Mhm.
farmers. One of them was ag tourism, and had mentioned to stop by our office and we could provide you with more information. Additionally, there's what's called agricultural-based commercial operations, which is a permitted use in all state land use agricultural districts. And it's something, again, if you stop by our office, we can provide you with that information. Ag processing facilities are a permitted use in all ag districts. They're permitted without plan approval, but even the major ones, all they need is a simple plan approval. So there is opportunities available to farmers to do this on ag land.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Well, we can go on to the next testifier, please.
Chair, your next testifiers are Kevin Hill and Kalei Kalikini. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth now before the Windward Planning Commission? Great, thank you. You'll have 3 minutes and I'll let you know when you have 30 seconds remaining. Please introduce yourself and let us know the town that you reside in before you start.
Excellent. Yeah, my name is Kevin Hill. I'm in Hakalau as well. And I just had a question if I could before. Like there's been a couple questions that previous testifier asked about the CDP for Hilo. And then the council was asked if they had questions for him, but he was asking a direct question. Like it's really important to us. I mean, I work in Hilo. My wife works in Hilo, right? We're in Hilo every day. I think it's just really enormous that Hilo have a say. So this is my opinion, just related to him, just a question. Who answers that question? I mean, where does that question get answered? It's just like, okay, so it's
You-
testimony, but
You have 3 minutes. The commission will not be answering questions today.
Mm.
You can speak afterwards to the planning director.
okay, if I may, I'd like to talk to the planning director afterwards. Okay, so thank you. I don't know if I still get to reset my 3 minutes, but my testimony is regarding to the comment that was made before about the idea of climate change. So my philosophy, my perspective on the plan, and I think it's a great presentation. I think April does a great job. And I know there's an enormous amount of work that's gone into that, so I appreciate all that. But in my opinion, that if there's a fundamental flaw philosophically about the plan, that's systemic all throughout the plan, and we don't stop and address it, then the whole plan is flawed. And in my opinion, climate change conversation has to get talked through because we don't all mean the same thing when we say climate change. One, I think the name itself is ridiculous because of course it's right? It gets warmer, it gets colder. Like, how can you be a denier of climate change? What's meant by climate change is that mankind is the cause of all of it because of what we exhale and because of what we drive and a few other things, right? And that presumption is the fundamental issue with climate change. And then it comes into the conversation about sustainability and how we do zoning and how we do everything else, permitting everything else. This plan is the most important document for our next 20 years, and we got to get it right. And there's huge information out there that says that there's almost like a cult in this climate change that ignores true science. They ignore the fact that solar activity has the number one impact on climate change is solar activity. One of the other presenters talked about it, right? It's enormous. It's totally eliminated from their formulas. The second thing that's eliminated isn't considered is man is messing with the weather. I read a document today from the professor at University of Zurich who said virtually every country is modifying the weather. And we don't even talk about it seriously like it's a real deal. Like what's going on in North Carolina, what went on in Maui, what's going on in other parts of the world, that it's like man is majorly dicking with the weather. And if we don't take that into consideration, we just say, oh, it's all climate change, see? And we don't evaluate how much weather modification is going on. 2 sites that I really encourage you to investigate. Geoengineeringwatch.org does an amazing job. Scientific case studies, documentation, even a documentary, 2-hour documentary done in 2021 called The Dimming. Great documentary. The other one is called weathermodificationhistory.org or .com, I think, weathermodificationhistory.com. That guy does an amazing job. Engineering guy comes in here. He's got soil samples, air samples. Like he does an amazing job to deny that man is a lot of what's going on and many of our major traumatic, devastating weather issues that
You
we've
have
been
30
dealing with in
seconds
our
remaining.
country and throughout the world is really ignorant at this point. We've got to look at it. And I believe that if we're basing this plan on a fundamental issue, it's systemic throughout it. And we got to stop and look at its truth. If I'm taking an oath to tell the truth and the plan is saying something else, one of us has got to change. That's your job. You're the judiciary, right? Like the truth is out there and then you got to discern what really is the truth. If what I'm saying is true, then the fundamental basis of the plan has to be addressed. And my request is we just back the truck up,
Your 3
look at it and
minutes are
do a
finished.
Hilo CDP as well as a part of that process. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. We try to discourage public applause. Okay, thank you. Commissioners, do we have any questions?
Please ask me a question.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to the next testifier. Thank you, sir.
Aloha, my name is Kale Kaili Kini. I represent myself and my family, and I live in Hilo. So my testimony again will be regarding climate change. And just to bring that up, because in the plan you have it, climate adaptation, you have climate change impacts, climate change mitigation, climate resilience. And it also mentions human induced climate change is resulting in global warming. So now to do the plan exactly, we understand to get something to be successful or to do it right, we need to know everything having to do with the weather. And again, I say to you that the weather machines and weather modifications started in the 1950s, right after World War II. So today it's 74 years old in development. 74 years old. I'm 76. Okay, so it's 2 years younger than I am. I attended the University of Alaska in Anchorage and Alaska Methodist University in Anchorage. And I worked for Elmendorf Air Force Base. I was working in their communications. And what I did learn is that they had a station erected for they were testing the weather technology. And it was invented by Nikola Tesla. And it was on Kona, Gakona. It struck me because of Ga, and then the word Kona. But it was a small little area where the Air Force put all these towers up. So this professor, and I knew of him, his name is Professor Nick Begich, Begich. His father was a state senator for many years in Anchorage. And he wrote the book, and the title is Angels Don't Play This Harp. HAARP. These are acronyms that signify and talk about this technology. It's crucial for all of you as commissioners to learn about this. Another weather modification was chemtrails. The US Air Force did the chemtrails. That's altering our weather, causing, if a tsunami hits, if earthquake happens, who are we going to blame? God? Man is messing with the weather today. And I want you to learn about this. I'm here as a teacher to teach you because it's your future, your children's future. It's not
You have
mine.
30 seconds left.
So I will end it because I know other people want to testify, but I do care about all of you. And I know your heart is in the right place. So just do the best that you can to learn more. Aloha, mahalo very much.
Thank you so much for your testimony.
You're welcome.
Commissioners, do we have any questions for the testifier? Okay, I see none. We can move on to the next.
Chair, you have one more in-person testifier.
Thank you.
Fran Kopp. Fran, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth now before the Windward Planning Commission?
I do.
Thank you. You'll have 3 minutes. I'll let you know when you have 30 seconds left. Please introduce yourself and let us know the town that you reside in. Thank you. Yep, you're already on.
Okay. My name is Fran Kopp and I live in Hilo. And I'm going to talk about the topic of the night, which is climate change. Because like Kevin said, it's kind of the basis of what this general plan is all about. And I believe that they're using the term climate change to regulate and control people's movement, their speech, and their ability to organize each other and themselves. And they do this under the terminology of climate adaptation, climate change impacts, climate mitigation. And there's been a lot of scientific study, you're refuting this, but it's like overcoming a tsunami of bad information. And recently, studies have shown that what any person can do, any person in the whole world can do to change climate is only 1%. So the other parts are what we as, and that is in terms of how we eat and how we, drive cars and agriculture and all that. It's only 1%. But the geoengineering is what we're having to deal with. And also, let's see, what else was I going to say? I lost my train of thought there. But what we're also dealing with is, some of the terminology that is in this Agenda 2045 talks about vehicle miles traveled, the idea of, being able to be charging people for the mileage that they use. And, I know what I wanted to say. The idea about carbon, we want to go to carbon neutral or carbon zero. It is a total fallacy. It can't be achieved. And if it was achieved, and the closer we get to achieving that, the less sustainable we are as a species, because the plants need carbon to bring us oxygen. So it's a total fallacy. We cannot go to zero carbon. And so we have to really look at the science. And until we do, we're a failed state. And it's really, really ridiculous. And what I've noticed also in this Agenda 2045 is that it says there's no change.
I have 30 seconds left.
There's no change in zoning, but it opens the opportunity for zoning to be changed in the future. So that's a little sketchy there. I think what we really need to do is find out how many people can live in the county of Hawaii and how to sustain themselves. There are some basic things that are not even being addressed in terms of having enough infrastructure to be able to go from one place to the other in case of a tsunami. And so that needs to be addressed. I mean, even getting kids to school.
Your 3 minutes are finished.
The traffic is.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your
All right,
testimony.
thank you.
Commissioners, do we have any questions? Okay, I guess that concludes the in-person testimonies. We'll go on to Zoom now.
Chair, we have several people who want to testify on Zoom. The first testifier is, let's see, we've got April Lee. April, can you please turn on your camera?
Well, it's not very good looking, but I'm not in a cathedral. Okay. Well, greetings, Planning Commission. Thank you for your hard
April,
work.
just
My
one
name
moment.
is April Lee, and
April, just 1 minute. You'll have 3 minutes to testify. Please introduce yourself and state where you live.
yes, my name is April Lee, and I live in Hawaii, and I was born on Oahu, and I've been here a long time, and I have
Excuse me, we need to swear her in, please.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, Chair. Yes. April,
Yes,
do you swear to tell the truth on this matter?
I certainly do. Yes,
Thank you. Thank you. You may begin.
I am a Skywarn spotter, and that means that I notify the officials who are civil defense in most cases. I'm a ham radio MCOM participant with civil defense, and that in the healthcare system as a backup for the local hospital here in Kohala. And I am a community, I know every homeless person here. And I really think that, there are several things that I've observed as just a person that wants to protect. And one of the things in hazard mitigation would be the land use you're talking about tonight. And so I've changed my testimony because you said you weren't doing other things. But it is a great priority. And I really recommend looking at this issue because it is a real way we can protect our people, because the current programs that are being done to protect people from being injured in these floodplains and gullies here, they're blocked, they're packed up and I call my friends and I say at the county, I say, what can we do? And they say, well, the owners who have these gullies that they own are the ones that have to be responsible. But I think the county plan should have something to do with being able to mitigate the damage and the loss of life that's going to happen when these big floods occur in these gullies. We haven't had them here for a long time, but I don't know why current floodplain management really doesn't deal with the people that, you know, can go out there and see that these are legally built, but now they're in dangerous locations, and we do need to reduce the risk in these high risk areas, protecting them and protecting people. Just don't think anything's going to go wrong. The other thing is we have landslides that have put so many people in the emergency shelters that I've been working in as a local emergency response person. And this landslide happens always in Eole, and it happens if the rainfall becomes like 0.45 inches an hour, and it's going to happen every time. So people can't get home. And the other thing I'm concerned about is that we have gotten a lot of money in taxes because we have more high assessed values. And yet the county hasn't done a lot to fix up the things they own. We've got a pool that just opened. It was closed for so long, and it didn't even get completely repaired. And on the way to that emergency shelter, there's albizia trees lining the road. And I've talked to the Parks and Rec about it. We need to get those down, because let me tell you, Pele is going to do it again sometime. And we're going to have those trees blocking the way to get to the emergency shelter.
You
So
have 30 seconds.
I think an assessment needs to be done on the emergency shelters to make sure that they all are. I just got an ADA bathroom back, but it took 4 years to get that thing back. And that was if we have a big disaster, it would be an emergency shelter that school would open. And I do think we have to serve farmers, because they are dealing with a lot of stress. And I'm a psychologist. They're dealing with a lot, and the higher costs and the not having affordable housing. I do think that you should sell some of your extra property. You've got tons of buildings that are sitting idle.
Your 3 minutes are up. Thank you for your
Darn.
testimony.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Commissioners, we have any questions for the testifier? Okay, we'll move on to the next, please.
Yes, the next testifier is Ellen LaPena. Ellen, can you please turn on your video?
Hi, thank you.
Hi, Ellen, please raise your right hand.
Actually, I'm going to pass on testifying this evening, but thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you. The next testifier chair is Josephine Kali'i-Pio. Josephine? Can you turn on your video, please? Josephine? Chair, I'll move to the next testifier and try for Josephine later. We have Marion Gershot. Marion?
Hello?
Hi, Marion. Can you please turn on your video?
I'm trying to. Cannot start video.
Can you try it now?
I'll try it now. Nothing's happened. Can you hear me? Oh, it's not coming on. I don't know why. I'll try it again.
As long as we can hear you, that's fine. We don't need the
Okay.
video.
Okay, Marion,
Okay.
can you please raise your right hand?
Sure.
Do you
Yes,
swear to tell?
I affirm to tell the truth to the Planning Commission, yes.
Thank you. You will have 3 minutes on this matter, and I'll let you know when 30 seconds are up. Please introduce
you.
yourself and state where you live.
Thank you. My name is Marion Gershot. I live in Nalehu. And I'm very concerned about this plan. I was thinking of the best ways to talk about this concern. So I wanted to open with a quote from Mr. Kern from September 23rd, 2023, where he said, "It isn't always obvious, but the general plan impacts most aspects of daily life." Most aspects of daily life. This is not your father's general plan. This is something that's been developed by the Office of Sustainability, Climate Equity and Resilience. Council Bill 48, introduced by Council Chair Kimball and Member Villegas, proposes the creation of an Office of Sustainability, Climate Equity and Resilience under the Office of the Managing Director. So this is a cabinet level office. This doesn't report to the planning office or the planning director. Maybe there's a dotted line, but the reporting structure is deliberate. In fact, Chair Kimball said that the elevation of this office to the cabinet level is intended to help ensure coordinated action, both internally and externally. Moreover, the bill also proposes the establishment of a climate action revolving fund. What makes this proposal unique is that the office's structure is based on the collective impact model, also known as the whole of government model, which is used to coordinate and amplify actions to result in the greatest impact. This is connected to the Inflation Reduction Act. All of the funding is coming from the federal government. There's a lot of dancing around where the funding for all this stuff is going to come from. It was set up as a conduit to introduce climate change mitigation control and monitoring activities on the population of Hawaii Island. All of these greenhouse gas estimates, they don't take any, the military is
You
not
have
included in
30
any of
seconds
this.
left.
The trucks, the planes, the ships, the war games when everybody comes to the island. What about the volcanoes that are constantly spewing? The steam vents that are constantly spewing? The ocean that we're surrounded by, which is the largest carbon sink out there. It doesn't make any sense for Hawaii Island to be a national leader in climate change when we're up against, we are carbon. Everything that's on this island is carbon. It grows.
Your 3 minutes are up.
This is a
Thank you for
power
your
grab.
testimony.
And it was shocking to hear that you took a vote already.
Thank you.
to
Thank you for your
recommend it.
testimony.
I'd like to
We're
know
gonna
when
go
that
on to the
vote was
next
taken.
testimony, please.
Because it wasn't at the last
Thank
meeting.
you. We're going to move on to the next testifier.
Chair, our next testifier is Nana Manuel. Can you please turn on your video?
I'm sorry, I didn't have any testimony today.
Thank you.
I've already submitted.
The next testifier that I have is Noah Whalen. Can you turn on your video, please? Can you please raise your right hand, Noah? Do you swear to tell the truth on this matter?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and where you live, and you will have 3 minutes for your testimony.
Hi, I'm Noah Wallen. I live on Maui in Haiku, but hello, good evening. I'm Noah Wallen and I am with Pacific Rim Land. We are the managing entity for the owners of the property at Waikoloa Quarry. We're also the sister company to Goodfellow Brothers, the heavy civil construction company. I submitted written testimony on December 3rd, on Monday or Tuesday. The Waikoloa Quarry is on the Kona side of the island with access off of Waikoloa Road, located about 3 miles mauka of Queen Ka'ahumanu Highway. I'm here today to ask for your consideration to change the LUPAG map. The draft LUPAG map show the parcel in urban expansion designation. We are asking to change it to heavy industrial. The quarry has been operating for the past 30 years with a special use permit. The expiration of that special use permit is in 2043, which is another 19 years from now. The heavy industrial designation would allow for the continued heavy industrial use for the quarry. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Commissioners, we have any questions? Okay, no questions. We'll move on to the next testifier.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next testifier is Patrick Wake. Patrick, can you please turn on your video? Patrick, can you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth on this matter before the Windward Planning Commission?
I do.
Please state your name and where you live, and you'll have 3 minutes for your testimony.
Patrick Wake, and I live in Ocean View. And yeah, I'm just among those who have a big problem with the with all the global warming. Basically everything that has to do with global warming, they just throw out because you know, like another person testified, they're testing, they're doing climate control around the world, different countries, and claiming climate change at the same time, you know, to basically enact more onerous controls on people, which is really what this seems like. So yeah, guess that's about all I had to say. Mahalo.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you for your testimony. Commissioners, do we have any questions for the testifier? Okay, I hear none. Let's go on to the next testifier, please.
I wanted to ask if Judith Wake wanted to testify with, she had signed up as well, in addition to Patrick Wake.
No, she had to leave.
Thank you. So we'll move on to the next testifier. That is David Webb. Can you please turn on your video? David, are you there? Okay, we'll move on to Jewel Rain. Can you please turn on your video?
Aloha.
Can you please, hi, Jewel, can you please raise your right hand?
Sure.
We're going to swear you in. Do you swear to tell the truth on this matter before the Windward Planning Commission?
Yes.
And you'll have 3 minutes for your testimony. I'll let you know when 30 seconds are up. Please state your name and where you live.
Jewel Rain, Papalani, which is just north of Mililiti on the Big Island. This is concerning that plan, right? The general plan. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, that is
I'm
correct.
sorry, I got on in here late. Yeah, I'm a farmer and I'm on catchment, and I heard there's some things in there about catchment where there actually could regulate your water. Is that true?
You have 3 minutes to speak. We don't answer questions. This is for you to testify.
Oh, okay. So we just can't talk, huh? I mean, talk to, like, get answers. There's no answering, like it's not like a human to human kind of talk. You
have 3
I just-
minutes to testify, and this is part of your
Okay.
3 minutes.
Okay, so
I don't want my catchment water messed with, or it's nobody's business how much catchment water that I have. Or if I have it or not, or anything that happens on my property, as far as I'm concerned, as long as I'm not harming anyone, or causing harm, then I can do whatever I want on my property. And the smart city is trying to force everybody into little places and get everybody out of the country. And I agree with that man that just spoke about climate change. It's a bunch of complete malarkey. It has, it's they're modifying the weather. It's very well known that they're modifying the weather. So, this climate change is just making people that aren't aware of that think that there's actual global warming. It's actually cooling in some places, warming in some places. Change is change. Weather is always changed. So there's nothing new about that. And just everything that I've read in the plan, it's just actually seems like it's coming from the UN, nothing to do with Hawaii. And I think that people in Hawaii need to be able to make their own plan. In small communities. That's the way that things were done when things worked properly. That small communities made decisions, not people that are voted. If the people actually that were voted in
You have
would
30
actually follow
seconds.
those of us. Yeah, if the people that were voted in would actually follow those of us that testify, and that would make a lot of sense. But the people that are voted in seem to just have their own top-down kind of agenda, and it's just not right. What's happening? It's not Pono. Whole thing needs thrown out. Begin again.
Your 3 minutes are up. Thank you.
Yep, thank you for your testimony. Commissioners, do we have any questions? Okay, I hear none. Let's move on to the next testifier, please.
I'll circle back around, Chair, to Josephine Kali'i-Pio. Josephine, did you want to testify? Moving on, Chair, I'm going to try David Webb. David Webb, did you want to testify? It seems that David might be trying to testify, Chair, but I'm not hearing anything.
Okay, want to give it a 30 seconds, see if we can get him on.
Yeah, I think he's trying a different line. If you just
Okay.
wait a second here, we'll see. Doesn't look like David has connected, Chair. My apologies. That
Okay.
looks to be all of the Zoom testifiers.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, well, that concludes our online testimony for this evening. Next, we have asked the commissioners if they have any questions for staff. Do we have any questions this evening? This is the time that we can ask questions. So. Everyone needs. we can have a discussion. We can, if we don't have questions. I mean, I guess a question would be, most of the testimony tonight has been about climate change. So that seems to be the big topic. It is in the plan quite a bit. But it seems like a lot of people have a lot of concerns about this. What type of, I guess my question would be, what type of research did we do, on climate change?
So I'd have to pull up our resources for that particular section, and Bethany Morrison, who was here with you last time, is our resident expert in this particular arena. But I do know that we referenced and utilized a good amount of information that came through the state and HRS, as well as a lot of other local organizations that are related and address climate change and energy efficiency and other things related to being a more resilient island. We also have created the climate action plan. So that was done as part of this general plan process. So the research and information and outreach that was involved in that particular plan has come in to this work that is included in the general plan. So there's been a lot of work that's done and a lot of research that's gone into this.
Thank you.
Chair.
Yes.
April, maybe there's a few questions that came up tonight that if we can kind of touch upon them, that
Sure.
might help. One of the testifiers, Brian, had talked about, the amount. I mean, unfortunately, some people aren't aware of the amount of work that went into this plan. And I know that we have resources that are available to the public that they are able to look at and see where these information regarding climate change came from. It has reports there. All of the information regarding the public input that came into this plan, which is voluminous. It is extensive. It's been going on for
9 years.
9 years. So this is not something that just started and we're just bringing it to the public at this time. If you could just identify some of those areas that maybe the public can see where they can get that information we had talked about.
We
bringing
mean
that
share
up.
screen and show
Yeah.
where a lot of that information is
Yeah,
online.
that would be
Absolutely.
helpful.
I'm happy
Thank
to
you.
do that. I'm also happy to address some of the other questions that were raised from public testimony, if that's something that you all would want to hear. But I'll start with our website. Let me pull that up really quickly.
While you're doing that, I can address a few of the questions that came up. Again, tonight's topic is land use. We're moving through the plan, taking sections and trying to address those areas of the plan. Climate change was at our last meeting, but it apparently is a hot topic. And so people were more interested in that this evening than land use. Another topic that came up was catchment, and I just did a brief search in our general plan. There's 7 areas that mention rainwater catchment. I believe the person may be concerned about 26F. It's an action that is stated, and it's basically states collaborate with the DOH to develop standards and or guidelines for the construction and use of rainwater catchment systems to minimize the intrusion of any chemical or microbiological contaminants. So, and there are others, but I didn't see anything in the plan that appears to restrict rainwater catchment. It actually promotes it.
That is correct. And that is where that policy comes from, 2005, as well as HAR rules under that govern DOH.
Commissioners, we have any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, Commissioner Kern.
I'm going to try and address some of these, I guess, questions that our testifiers had. Sorry. So in regards to requesting to put the general plan on hold in hopes to revise the CDP for Hilo, can you folks elaborate on the order in which this process takes place? So the general plan gets seen through first, and then the CDP Hilo is an offspring, or is it the other way around? Just so there's a little bit
Great
of
question.
transparency in
Yeah,
what we
great
do.
question in terms of the organization and how this has sort of come to be. The 2005 general plan is the general plan that really authorized and sort of created the process for the community development plans. And so throughout the years, those plans have been developed. They're correct. There's not a current formal community development plan for South Hilo. But the point is, we were based on the general plan process. We were bound by the process that is in 16.1 of the current general plan, which is the comprehensive review process, which mandated that we start this process within 10 years of the adoption of the last general plan, which was February of 2005. So we started this process in February of 2015. At that time in 2015, we did not have a Hamakua CDP, nor did we have a Ka'u CDP. So those were already in process, but were not complete. They have been completed during this, but they had been started at least. The other thing, and so now the point was to fold those community development plans and all the work that's been done into this general plan. And then after the general plan is adopted, to go back and sort of re-look at what do we need now, today, from the community development plans, and what are those going to look like, and revise those respectively in each of the regions. I will say with Hilo, we acknowledge that there is not and was not a current community development plan for South Hilo. But there are other plans that Hilo has that none of the other regions or urban areas have. And one of them is the zone map that Hilo has, is much more detailed. It has right-of-way widths on every single road in the Hilo area. It's the only zone map that has that level of detail. We have the other plans that I've mentioned before also are the Envision Hilo plan, as well as the Hilo multimodal plan. We also have a lot of DHH areas in Hilo, particularly in the urban area and along the outskirts of the urban area. And all of the DHHL plans we met with DHHL many times. We looked at their general plans and their community plans, and that data and information were included in what we're presenting in this proposed general plan. The other thing is we had extra community meetings. I understand that in any given community planning process, people find out about it at various stages along the way. We recognize that, but we do everything we can to reach out to communities and get the word out about all of our public meetings and our workshops. We put it on the radio, we get it in the newspaper, we send out public notices multiple times. We have social media where we blast it out, what we call blast it out. We send it out to community groups. All of those kinds of things. We do our best, given, you know, what we have to get the word out about all of our community meetings. When people sign up, we have a list, what we call a listserv. It's an email group service basically that people can sign up for. They sign up for that, and anytime we have anything going on, we have updates, we have new information available, we have community meetings, emails go out to that group or listserv. For the general plan, we have sent it out. We have access to all of the listservs throughout all of the county departments, and we have sent general plan notices to all of the listservs that are available on the county. So we do our best to get the word out, and we understand that there are still limitations and there are still gaps in the overall process. But we do our best to get that kind of information out. We met with neighborhoods, we met with civic organizations, we met with schools, particularly in Hilo. So understanding that we didn't have a current or a more recent community development plan for Hilo, we did extra outreach in the South Hilo area.
Please, no, you can't say that. I think at this point in time, we're going to take a recess until 7. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Acting right now. I have to get confirmed still. No, he's hasn't been kept on in the new administration.
Jessica, can you hear me now? Jessica?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I hear you now.
All right, thank you. I'm sorry, Megan. You'll have 3 minutes and I'll let you know when you're 30 seconds remaining. And if you could just state your name and the town you reside in, and then you can begin.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Megan. I live in Hilo. So I come aggrieved because Hilo has not been represented. And with all due respect, April, you've represented at different meetings multiple different reasons why Hilo wasn't represented. And further, I have an objection that since presenting that it was a very transparent process of consultation, it still remains to be explained why Hilo and Kona were scheduled meetings at 2:30 on a Thursday afternoon. And Mr. Darrow, perhaps you would be also able to answer that question. It certainly doesn't seem like transparent community engagement. So getting back to the main grievance I bring, I'm a Hilo resident, and I do think it's behooving of this panel to deeply reflect on why there would be no Hilo plan, and yet we're told that it must go forward. And so we're looking at a document that has very serious matters because property appropriation is written into this document. That is something that should give everybody pause. And some of us are just wondering what happened to the brakes. It seems like there's a failure here to notice some very, very concerning legal matters that are buried in this document. And you have had multiple testifiers now try to assist you to see the problems. It just doesn't seem right to go on ignoring them. And I think I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony this evening. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
It would be so great if this panel were asking more of these people questions. I mean, we're bringing you very important information, and it seems like even out of respect for the information that's been provided to you, there would be questions to us, not just to the staff of the planning department. That's what seems out of balance here.
Yeah, part of the process is that we don't answer questions. This is your opportunity to testify before us.
No, I just heard you encouraging this panel to ask questions, and I would like to encourage a lot of questions coming from you because you have the opportunity, or you did have the opportunity, to draw on this body here of the public who are bringing information to you. They've read the document. They have concerns, and it would be quite important to pay attention to those concerns. That's my feedback. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your testimony. Do we have a Zoom testifier this evening?
Yes, Chair, we have Sarah Lee Kittens. Sarah Lee, did you want to testify?
Yes, I do, please.
Can you please turn on your video if possible? Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth on this matter now before the Windward Planning Commission?
Of course.
And you'll have 3 minutes to testify, and I'll let you know when 30 seconds remain. Please begin, introduce yourself and state where you live.
Thank you. I'm Sarah Lee Kittens. I'm here on the island. I lived here for 12 years. I've been away for a while, but I'm back on island. I am concerned about this plan. There's many issues that need to be addressed. I probably won't get through everything, but I think I just want to begin where I started writing things down today. One of the things that I came across in reading a local history book was how this general plan mimics the illegal overthrow of the Hawaiian kingdom. how it's much different than stripping away people's rights and eroding the invisible forces that give life to the people, their connection, community, and self-sustainability, and their stewardship to the INA that provides for life here on the island. Clear and simple purpose gives rise to intelligent action and successful outcomes. Complex rules and regulations create stupid and limited behavior. On January 17th, 1946, on the 53rd anniversary of the overthrow of the Hawaiian Kingdom, Senator Alice Kamokila Campbell, a descendant of chiefs from the lineage of Queen Kapiolani, wife to King Kalakaua, and one of the few voices who opposed the statehood for Hawaii, gave her testimony to the Joint Congressional Committee on Statehood, was quoted by John Whitehead in saying, "I do not feel we should forfeit the traditional rights and privileges of the natives of our islands for a mere thimbleful of votes in Congress, that we, the lovers of Hawaii, from long association with it, should sacrifice our birthright for the greed of alien desires to remain on our shores, that we should satisfy the thirst for power and control of some inflated industrialists and politicians who hide under the guise of friends of Hawaii, yet still keeping an eagle eye on the financial and political pressure button of subjugation over the people in general of these islands." I do like the word general. It has a commanding presence, doesn't it? As in the general plan. There's nothing general about it, as it is specifically intricately designed to strip away the life of the people and their connection to the island. I just wonder where you're getting your decision-making power. Is this an indoctrination by information that's being handed down by unelected corporations, individuals, or people in financially empowered positions? About the talk of the climate model, technology was created for the good of supply where better weather was needed.
You have
Once
30 seconds.
Okay. Once the powers found out about and took control of the weaponization against the people for monetary gain by those who demonstrate its use and destruction of life and property. I will probably send the rest in the email because I've cited several sites that note weather modification, how they're using it for controlling the water resources, and they're going to monetize water resources through the weather technology
Your,
that they're
your 3
using.
minutes, your 3 minutes are up.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Thank you for your testimony this evening. Commissioners, do we have any questions? Okay, I hear no questions, and that's it for the
Chair, there
online.
was one other testifier, Mr. David Webb. David,
Mhm.
are you able to come online? Can we hear you now? Chair, I'm not hearing anything but static. David, I'm sorry, we can't hear you. It's not coming through right now.
Did we lose him, Jessica?
There's no sound that's discernible. I'm just hearing static.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess if you get him back and we're still here, let us know.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So we're back to discussion and deliberation. And so do we have any other questions for staff?
Pardon me, Chair.
Yes.
There were a few other items of testimony that I kind of took notes on. If you wouldn't
Sure.
mind, I'd be
Yeah.
happy to address a few of those to answer some of those questions. I understand some of them may have left already, and that's too bad, but at least it will be captured in the
Okay.
meeting.
Mhm.
One was a concern of, some of them we've already answered, but one of them was a concern about the county trying to purchase people's property. And so something like that, number one, there are a lot of legal, a lot of laws in place that prevent the county from taking what's referred to as taking people's property without just compensation, for one thing. Another is that it almost always has to be a willing landowner that would be willing to purchase it. And the best example, and the one that we mostly refer to in the general plan, is again the Public Open Space Commission, which that is their role, is that people present applications for land that they believe for conservation reasons or other things. Some of it is in North Kohala is a great example. The community up there has been very active in presenting applications on their coastal land, and much of their coastal land is now owned by either the county or the state or a land trust of some kind, and preserved for things like public access for the public to be able to reach the shoreline and those lands, as well as protection of historic resources. So I think there's a maybe understanding of the purpose of stating the statement that may be in the general plan about the county having a list of lands. Also, many of the community development plans, as well as other area plans, actually list lands that the community would like to see purchased. Again, North Kohala is a great example. The gentleman, I believe his name is Michael, who raised, Jeff answered some of the questions about the resources for farmers and infrastructure, but the plan does speak to, in the agricultural section, as well as the economic development section, specifically related to supporting farmers and small farmers, and specifically about infrastructure. Things like water infrastructure is really important for agricultural production, especially with some of the agricultural operations that he was also referring to require a lot of water. So that is something that the plan does speak to and supports. There was also mention of limiting VMTs. So vehicle miles traveled. The plan and the county does not presume to dictate or limit how people utilize their various vehicles and modes of operation. That is not the intent or what this plan strives to do, or the county. It does speak to the county's fleet and what the county has prioritized in terms of wanting to minimize the use of fossil fuels in our vehicle fleet. It also speaks a lot to various multimodal and transportation options, and feeling like the county should do a better job of providing facilities and transportation options, more robust mass transit, for example, things like that, so that people do have options. People who really can't afford to buy gas every day or every week could have other options to be able to get to their places of work and shopping and things. And I think that's it on my notes.
Okay. I know we've heard a lot about, electric vehicles. The pitfalls, let's say, of that. I did see hydrogen mentioned, but not a lot. But with hydrogen, we basically already have the infrastructure to get it to people. It's not like we have to build new infrastructure. So didn't the county get some hydrogen buses?
We do have, to my knowledge, I think we do have at least one hydrogen bus.
Okay.
But we do not have a lot of infrastructure for that. In the plan, it's really mentioned as an opportunity.
Mhm.
It's not a mandate of any kind. It's an option. That's something to explore, to see what the feasibility and the like, right? But I think we do have at least one hydrogen bus. I do not know if it's operational. We would have to go back to mass transit and ask them.
Mhm. Yeah, because I would think hydrogen would kind of be up there, personally, in terms of, alternatives to, let's say foreign fossil fuels, especially foreign fossil fuels.
Understood.
In my former job, we did have a hydro plant, and that was a big option that we were talking with Blue Planet, that we would have enough extra electricity to actually have a electrolyzer and able to make hydrogen. And so it seems that electricity, even though it drives our planet, drives our body, it can be expensive, especially out here. But some of those natural resources could go into, hydrogen production. I just thought that was,
Yeah, thank
yeah,
you.
yeah, that was, that could be something that could be a little bit more robust. Do we have any other discussion? It can be on, from the commissioners, it can be on tonight's topic, which is land. No. Okay, so seeing no other questions for staff, or discussion among the commissioners on anything, then I would ask for a motion to continue.
I motion to set forth this discussion for a later time or move it forward to the next meeting.
Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, it was moved by Commissioner Perrin and seconded by Commissioner Baylog. Is there any discussion on this motion? If there's no discussion, staff, would you please take a roll call, and staff will restate the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So the motion is to continue to the next scheduled meeting. We did cancel your regular meeting for January 2nd, and we will also be canceling the general plan meeting scheduled for that date and for the 3rd. So your next general plan meeting will be February 6th, and that will be at 9 a.m. And then your regular meeting will be at 1 p.m. February 6th. So that was a very long taking of the vote, but the motion is to continue the meeting to the February 6th meeting. With that, Commissioner Perrin?
Aye.
And Commissioner Deluz? Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Baylog?
Aye.
Commissioner Deluz?
Aye.
Commissioner Takaki?
Aye.
And Vice Chair and Interim Chair Daniele?
Aye.
Okay, the motion carries 5-0.
The closed captions transcript will be terminated shortly, and those who wish to save the transcript should do so now.